video, we're going to look at the hips. The hips are the largest ball and socket joint in the body, and they are surrounded by a synovial capsular membrane that lubricates the joints. If we live sedentary lifestyles and we sit for long periods of time, we slow down the circulation of the synovial fluid, and this often leaves us susceptible to injury, arthritis, things like that. That affect not only the hip joint when we experience pain, but they can also affect the lower back. This synovial fluid not only supplies the cartilage with nutrients, but it also detoxes and clears the wastes from the same cartilage. In this video today, we're going to focus on releasing the hip joints and doing some movements in those hip joints to strengthen not only the glutes, but also get that synovial fluid running through the joints. We are going to use either a reflex ball or a tennis ball, a resistance band, but if you don't have access to a resistance band, then you don't need to use one. You can create your own resistance. The other thing I'm going to be using is a massage table. If you have a kitchen counter that is about hip height, or your dining room table, even your dressing table, something that's about hip height, that will serve to actually just give the hip a nice stretch, will be useful. Let's start off. We're going to bring the reflex ball underneath the glutes. So I want you to actually sit on the reflex ball or the tennis ball and just give the glutes a good release. So it's up to you how much weight you want to apply. Just ease into that release. Work into the lateral side, and you can bounce that knee out and in just to give that lateral side of the glutes a nice release. Move up and down. Let's come onto the mat. Let's do the same thing to the other side. So you're going to move up and down the glutes, move in circular directions, change directions. Lateral side, just bouncing the knee out and move from side to side as that knee bounces out. Let's just release the iliac spine in line with the hip bones. So if you do have any tension in the lower back, we're just releasing it. So the ball into the dimple in line with the hip bone and roll along that iliac spine. So next to the spine, then you're moving the ball towards the hip. You can also bring the ball onto that dimple, cross the ankle, and just release inside that hip. Let's do the same thing to the other side. So again, lifting the tailbone, bring the ball in line with the hip into that dimple and rock from side to side, releasing that iliac spine. Bring the knee up and cross the ankle over the other knee and just bounce that knee, releasing and opening up in the hip. Now from there, let's take the ball and we're going to roll onto our front. You're going to bring the ball underneath the hip bone, onto the hip flexor. Curl the toes under, come into a plank, so on the elbows, and just roll up and down. Do the same thing to the other side. Rock back and forth. So use your feet just to push yourself back and forward. Just continue. onto the knees. Now what you're going to do, come back to the first side, and you're going to bring the ball just above the hip bone into the diaphragm. So again, just relaxing and just rocking from side to side. So the ball is pushing right inside the hip bone, not on the actual bone, but tucked inside the hip bone. If you do have any tightness there, you might feel the sensation going down the leg. It's a really nice release. Now you're going to bring the knee up off the mat, lift the foot, and just bounce. When you're ready, move over to the other side. Just bring the ball inside the hip bone. So you want to be not on the bone, but just inside that bone. And relaxing the forehead onto the hands. Wiggle the hips from side to side. You're releasing the diaphragm, so focus on your breathing through your nose. Lift that knee and that foot up. Squeeze and engage the glutes that you've released. And bounce that knee up. And release. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Come back onto hands and knees. Coming up to your counter. I'm going to show you from this side. Bring your foot and your knee up. So you see you want to be just maybe a little bit lower than hip height. If your counter is a little bit higher, and you can bring a few books or something to stand on just to lift yourself up a little bit. That is also an option. The knee is on the table and the foot is on the table. So it's perpendicular to your hips. And you're going to push that knee down. Now if this is as far as you can go, I want you to stay here and just move a little bit from side to side. Just swinging the hips from side to side, loosening up. Now you'll find one side is generally a little bit stiffer or tighter than the other side. Yeah, I think we're not all balanced the same, so one side is always a little bit different to the other side. Just try and release it as much as you can. Let's bring the elbows in front if you can and continue just wriggling from side to side. Yeah, focus on your breathing. Let's change over to the other side. So again, foot and knee up onto the surface and just push that knee down and wiggle from side to side. When you're ready, if you're ready to bring the elbows down, then you can do so. And again, just wiggle a little bit from side to side. You should feel a nice stretch down that lateral side. Hold it there for a few more seconds. And let's release. From here, we're going to bring the resistance band just above the knees. As I said, if you don't have a resistance band, then just create your own resistance. We're going to come back onto the hands and knees. You're going to bring your lifted leg, so you're going to balance on one knee and bring your hands as close to your knee as you can. And you're going to bring the other foot into the arch of the supporting foot. And the knee is lifted as well. And you're in a rounded position, so round the spine. And you're going to bounce that knee out to the side. So you're getting a nice rotation from the hip and you're activating the glutes. You'll also feel the supporting glutes activating as well to keep you in that balance. So try not to put too much weight into the hands. Fingertips on the mat. Let's do another 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's move over to the other side and do 2 sets of 8. So when you're in this position, take your hand, your opposite hand to the knee. So you're leaning slightly into the supporting hip, and then you should feel more resistance in the glutes, and you're bouncing that knee out. Keep going. Another 8 and 7 and 6 and 5, 4 and 3, 2 and 1. Good. From there, we're going to go back to the first side again. This time you're going to open the knee up as much as you can. So already you're resisting against the band. Now we're going to arch, and we breathe into our arch. So you're lifting and opening up into the pelvis, and then you breathe out and tuck. Breathe in and arch, breathe out and tuck. So you want to initiate the movement from the tailbone. Let's do another 4, and breathe out, and 3, and breathe out. 2 more, and breathe out, and the last one, and breathe out. You really should feel those glutes activating. Let's do the same from the other side. So open up that knee, and I'm going to turn to see, so you can see me from the side. Breathe in, arch, breathe out, tuck. Breathe in and arch, and breathe out, tuck. You're keeping the knee out, don't bring it in, and breathe out, tuck. Let's do another 4, and breathe out and tuck, and 3, and breathe out and tuck. 2 more, and breathe out and tuck, and the last one, and breathe out and tuck. Good. Keeping the band where it is. If you have a resistance band, we're going to lower down onto the abs, and you're going to keep the arms at shoulder height. Feet are straddle the mat. We're going to just lift one foot, keep the knees one on top of the other, and you're going to rotate there. So rotation again is coming from the hip. We're going to do 2 sets of 8 and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. From here, push forward for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're keeping the knee and the hip where they are, but the movement's coming from the hip. We're going to go over to the other side, and then we're going to come back and repeat for that second set. Hold it there, and you want to look over the opposite shoulder, so you're getting a bit of a spiral movement and working into those obliques. We rotate for 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Push forward for 2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Good. Come to the center. Just hug the knees into the chest. Should really feel those glutes activating. Let's come back to center and over to the other side, and rotation for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To push 1 and 2, 3. So you're really relaxing into it, just letting it flow forward. 3, 2, and 1. Finish off on the other side with that rotation for 8 and 7, 6 and 5, 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Take it forward. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Come back to center. Hug the knees. Release the band. Rock yourself up Nice and slowly use those core muscles to bring you into a lifted position. And I just want you to come back to your countertop and see if you're feeling a little bit looser in that hip joint. So let's bring the elbows down and just feel how that feels. Just wiggle the hips a little bit from side to side. And release. Let's do the same thing to the other side. Push down. And come onto the elbows when you're ready. And wiggle the hips from side to side. And release. So when we look at doing these exercises, we really want to prepare the body before we activate the areas that we're working, just so we can get that synovial fluid running to the joints and help lubricate the joints so that our risk of injury is less. And you will release that lower back, you will release